The Ubisoft headquarters are currently up in flames right now. Their stocks are at an all-time low, their games are at the lowest quality that they've ever been in, and their public sentiment is the worst that we've ever seen. Ubisoft is headed in a downward spiral right now, and their world is crumbling all around them. But to be honest, I can't really say I feel too bad about this because all of this happening around them is by their own doing. They've been making bad decision after bad decision for a while now, which led them to this very predicament that they're in today. Not gonna lie, I'm actually pretty interested in watching this whole entire empire that they've built slowly collapse from the inside out, because for the past couple of years, Ubisoft has been a parasite to the gaming industry. I mean, what is there to like about them? They're one of the scummiest publishers in the AAA scene right now, always trying to push the boundaries with how much they can squeeze out every last penny from their fans. They're always trying harder and harder to incorporate identity politics into the games at the expense of authenticity. And worse, but most important of all, the quality of their games have fallen so egregiously low that they've now become the laughingstock of the gaming industry. Their games now proudly boasting the Ubisoft moniker that gamers have hilariously bestowed upon them, because with every new title that they release, they become increasingly buggy, generic, and aggressively mediocre. Ubisoft isn't a good gaming company, and they haven't been for quite some time now. I can scarcely remember the last time they've really produced a game that can be considered great. Sure, they might make something that's good enough from time to time, but that's it. They were just good enough because Ubisoft has mastered the art of producing manufactured, soulless, mediocre slop for every game that they release. And it's so bizarre to me that one of the biggest AAA publishers on the market right now, with all the resources in the world, fails to even make a game half as interesting as something made from an indie studio with a fraction of the budget. They're like that one student in school whose parents were financially well off and completely willing to fully support their child through all of their life choices and ambitions. But for whatever reason, that kid never really had the drive to excel in any of his academics or after school activities. He just always did the bare minimum to get a passing grade in all of his classes, making him be perceived as a C average student, even though he has so much potential if he just tried a little harder. And eventually, after decades of constant disappointment, the parents finally gave up on their son, writing him off as a lost cause, even though they tried for so long to push him in the right direction, but he just never listened, because all he wanted to do was become a YouTuber. Wait, what were we talking about again? Oh, right. Ubisoft. Even though Ubisoft is a multi-billion-dollar company with pretty much infinite money, they still struggle to make a single good game nowadays. I still remember back in the ancient prehistoric era of 2010 where Ubisoft actually made some amazing games. Like Assassin's Creed 2 where, get this, you play as an Italian guy in Italy. Who would have thought? Or how about Splinter Cell Conviction? You know, back when Ubisoft actually had the balls to tell a dark and gritty story with a masculine main character like Sam Fisher. Or if we go back a few years, we had the Prince of Persia games, where they actually put an effort into making them stand out from the competitors. Nowadays, Ubisoft is releasing the same generic games that feel just like the last ones, except with a different coat of paint, all while trying to chase trends within the gaming industry and doing it poorly. They are a mere husk of their former selves. A husk of a company that used to be universally celebrated by gamers all over the world because they actually cared about making good games. But as time went on, all of that fame and status went to their heads, corrupting them, mutating them into something unrecognizable, something ugly. They say that if you stare long enough into the abyss, it'll eventually stare back at you. And I think that's what happened here with Ubisoft. They've essentially sold their souls to the devil, which in this case are the shareholders and investors. They no longer care about trying to innovate in their games anymore because that's risky and they don't want to take any chances with losing money. So they just copy and paste the same tired formula as long as they can and shove in as many microtransactions as they can in order to squeeze out every last penny from their consumers. Ubisoft has been slowly declining for the past few years now, and I think this year in particular really exemplifies just how shit they've become. In just a few months, they'll be launching their third AAA title this year with Assassin's Creed Shadows, and just like the previous two games that they've released this year, this is looking to be another dud based on the previews and trailers alone. But I'll get into that once the game fully launches. For now, let's just look at what a flaccid year it has been for Ubisoft releases so far. Earlier this year, Ubisoft launched the world's first ever quadruple A title with Skull and Bones. I mean, this is awesome, right? Ubisoft have just made history with this game. They should be swimming in praise and celebration, right? Well, not exactly. Because despite the wild claims that Skull and Bones is a quadruple A title, it's anything but that. In fact, it's just a below average imitation of a much better game that they released over 10 years ago. They invested approximately $200 million in over 10 years into its development, and this was the result.
Go! This shite isn't gonna gather itself! Battle station! Back to your posts!
If this is considered a quadruple A game, then I wonder what Concord would be. But that's besides the point. I actually find it hilarious how Ubisoft themselves have already crafted the perfect blueprint on how to make a great pirate game. All they had to do was copy that formula and make it look slightly better, but they couldn't even be bothered to do that. Skull and Bones plays more like a shitty mobile game that's tangentially pirate themed. Like, the amount of features that should be here but aren't in this fully priced premium game is staggering. For example, you can't even get off your ship to explore uninhabited islands to find treasure and loot with your crewmates. Instead, it's all just done through a menu. Yep, that's right, you just push a button and then you sometimes do a mini game and then you get your loot. That's it. World's first quadruple A game, by the way. They've also somehow made the moment-to-moment ship combat extremely tedious as well. You know, the main draw of the game. It's incredibly dull with no depth to it because all you're doing is just pointing your cannons and shooting till the enemy is dead. But that's not even the best part. The best part is that you can't even board the enemy ship to plunder their loot like you can in Black Flag. Instead, you just watch a 2-second animation of your crew boarding the ship, then you unceremoniously get the stuff added to your inventory. There's never any flair or excitement to it. This is pretty much a glorified mobile game with extra steps. Some quadruple A game this is, $200 million, and it's worse than what they've already made 11 years ago in pretty much every single conceivable way. And that's only the first release of the year. The second one isn't really that much better either, with Star Wars Outlaws. If I had to describe this game, it would be like eating a piece of cardboard, because this game is also very bland and mediocre. Now, I'm not saying that this is a bad game per se, because it doesn't do anything particularly awful, but it also doesn't really do anything to stand out either. It's one of the games of all time to be released in 2024, and I'm sure it'll be remembered for the rest of the month. I would say more about this game, but I've pretty much forgotten everything about it already. It's pretty much a run-of-the-mill Ubisoft game. You run around in an open world, or in this case, multiple open worlds, doing the same mundane copy and pasted side content over and over again with a bland story. Probably the worst part about this game is just how stupid the enemy AI is. You can pretty much do whatever you want and not be punished for it because all the enemies are too stupid to even be able to get you.
Let's lock it down!
See anything?
We made it, Nix.
And obviously this wouldn't be a trademarked Ubisoft game without the gigatons of bugs and glitches riddled throughout it. Again, Star Wars Outlaws isn't the worst game ever, nor is it really the best one. I mean, IGN gave it a 7 out of 10, so that means it's a 5 on everyone else's scale. In reality, it's really just mediocre at best and will probably be forgotten about within the next 30 days. And now here we are as we wait with bated breath for Assassin's Creed Shadows to drop on November 12th. But from all the previews and trailers, it doesn't look very promising. I'm sure there are people who are genuinely excited for this game to come out, and I'm not gonna lambast them for that. After all, it's not nice making fun of people with disabilities, but that's besides the point. The point is that Ubisoft is in a dire situation right now. Their stocks are in free fall, their investors are revolting trying to remove company leadership, and their public image has been permanently tainted. And the worst part of it all is that this was completely done by Ubisoft's own hand, and they are not sorry for it. That's why I don't feel bad about any of this happening to them right now, because they've had it coming for a long time now, with them polluting the industry for years and years, and I think it's time we take out the trash.